Good evening, folks. This is the budget town hall. Both it's virtual and in person. Just shy of a full house here in the City Hall Annex. If there are any questions from anybody who's tuning in virtually, we'd love to hear them. My name is Joe Warren. I'm the city manager here at the City of Belton, and alongside me is Casey Cohen, assistant city manager and finance director for the City of Belton. And we set up these town halls to try and allow a kind of a way for folks to communicate what their needs are, what the priorities are from the residents of the City of Belton. So that way, as we get into the budget season, the council has some direction from the public and the staff has some direction from the public, and so we can prioritize from there. Fully understanding and recognizing that sometimes people don't get civically involved until they have a specific issue that they want to address. So that's understandable sometimes. But at that point, I don't know that we're going to have a whole big presentation, but we would definitely entertain any questions or concerns from the audience, either in person or online. So if you do have something that you'd like us to either address or consider as we're going through the budget process for FY26, which will start in April 1st of 2025, then now is a good time to bring those issues or concerns up. Yes, sir.
This is a budget-specific thing. How much of our budget is reliant on federal funds?
How much of our budget is relied on federal funds? Well, that's a good question. We don't really get a lot of direct federal funding. Most of the federal funds we get are coming through some sort of a grant program that might run through the state, and those are generally project specific. And so, like things like streets projects that we do, we might get some federal funds as part of a just that's the main place we get direct federal funding. Most of the funds that we utilize here are local sales taxes, a little bit of local property tax, and then user fees for different services. We have the water utility and the sewer utility, so those are obviously funded through the bills and the rates that people pay for those services. But those are the main things. You have anything you want to add? I think that's most of it.
Are those grants locked in? Could they be threatened in any way? Is that kind of a...
Could those grants be threatened? I think that generally those grants, we look at them as one-time, allotments, generally. And so, they could be threatened. I mean, if the programs that we get those grant funds through are discontinued or changed or whatever, then that could affect our ability to access that money in the future for different projects. But
once the project's approved, those funds are already there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, my hometown in Tennessee, we had a program the city had a program where the city would go around and scoop up all the leaves and branches and stuff, but you could also take, if you had some brush in your yard.
Brush, branches, leaves, yeah.
Grind it all up, and then they put it in piles and let it mulch down, and you can come in and get compost too.
Interesting.
And I think a program like that, maybe you have to partner with the nursery or something like that. I think a program like that would be really useful for residents of Carrollton.
I think that's an interesting concept and idea. I mean, currently the city does not participate in any collection of leaves and or brush per se. That said, we actually have had some call and some. We're essentially going to probably start a program where when there is an incident, like a weather event, where we've got a bunch of leaves and branches specifically, not necessarily leaves, but branches that have fallen down in people's yards, that we're going to create a collection point that people could bring those to. It probably wouldn't be that difficult to create a mulch pile if we wanted to do something along those lines. We just need someone to maintain it. Yeah.
I know the city had the trucks with the big vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
So you just
I've seen those, yeah.
all your leaves, pile them on the curb, and they come by and just scoop them up. But they also would take branches up to a certain size, and they just had one of those trucks with the
Sure.
grabber.
Yeah.
So that's a bigger program.
Yeah.
You get involved in all
Yeah, and that would require quite a bit of some capital investment and just generation of an actual program. The city does have through its trash service, we do have branch pickup. You have to bundle it and cut it a certain length, and yeah, I mean, and from that perspective, then the trash company will take those as a special pickup. But other than that, I mean, we don't have that. I mean, that is an interesting concept. Appreciate that. Love the feedback. Any other questions or comments? We're still working through that, and so we don't have that ready yet as far as to say are there any major changes. I mean, I'm not sure that we're going to anticipate a lot of huge changes. A good chunk of our budget is personnel, right? It's salaries for the staff, you know, especially public safety, public works. That's the majority of our budget is through those personnel items, and we're not going to change that much at all. Minimum wage. Yeah, it's going to have an effect on our budget. I mean, mostly that there's a lot of our parks and our golf, those departments utilize part-time labor quite a bit, and those, even though as a city we will be exempt from that law, the marketplace is what it is. So if we want to have employees, we're going to have to, be at that wage, and so, yeah, it's going to have an impact.
Yeah, and I think the biggest impact is going to come when the CPI kicks in. And I mean, you always worry about compression. So if you're raising that minimum wage for those part-time people, you're going to have to raise wages all the way up the chain. So
And we could also see, I could see, we talked about this earlier, the potential for part-time positions kind of going away, or being conglomerated into, combined into full-time positions. Because once it's no longer financially advantageous to have those part-time positions because the wage has gotten so, because the minimum wage hits a certain point, well, we just try to combine those positions and get a full-time person, and then that availability for part-time work might kind of dry up a little bit. Yeah, the benefits and stuff at some point, it could be more cost-effective just to do full-time, but I guess that's always going to be a cost benefit calculation, right? See what's there. Any other questions or concerns? Hmm. The connection of Lucy Webb to Cambridge, that of course that would be a joint project that would have to take place between with us and Raymore. There has been further discussion on that. Raymore has taken the lead on that project. Obviously, we would be willing to partner with them in doing so, depending on the nature of what the project looked like. And so I believe they were trying to apply for some funding for that type of a project through MoDOT. Um, yeah, MoDOT's aware of it, and it's on their radar, and so yeah. I wouldn't say that there's a plan yet or there's a timeline yet, but they've looked at some designs, and if we can get it funded, I say we, them, with our support, could get a decent amount of it funded through MoDOT or through one of the programs that exist, then I could see that happening within the next few years, yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a difficult one for cities to deal with, especially to retrofit. Most schools were designed, and the biggest pickup and drop off um, mechanism was school buses at one point in time, and now there's been kind of a migration in society and how a lot more parents are taking kids to school, creating the excess traffic, and so most schools were not designed for that style. At least any schools that are 20 years or older, for sure, weren't designed with that in mind necessarily. And so I think that's the long-term answer there is, I'm sure the school district's looking at it too, is when new schools are built in new areas, is just to build in that staging potential for the pickup and drop off. Outside that, it's just a matter of trying to, create the healthiest environment for pedestrian traffic to allow folks to walk who can, and trying to create as safe an environment around the schools as we can through the street design and whatnot. Um,
Some of that might come from that new grant we just applied for, to look at that kind of stuff, right?
well, safe routes to schools, or just, I don't, that's the old term for it, but it's essentially the same program. Yeah, I mean that's what it's designed to do is generally get kids to school safer. It's a lot of times it's pedestrian heavy, but it's not always just pedestrian heavy. So, yeah. Yep. And the difficult part about that is the infrastructure costs are so high for something to address something like that. I mean, you're talking about redesigning streets and sidewalks and yeah. So, and it's usually for a short period of time during the day, right? It's not. It's like you're talking for like a 45-minute segment, in the afternoon, and maybe 30 to 45 in the morning. So. Yeah. Right. Right. Any other questions? Have any questions online, Charlie? No? Anybody have any other questions?
Hey, have we ever found out anything on the temporary four-way stop at Cleveland and Maryland?
No, we've had some preliminary conversations on that. We've engaged the school district, and so there are some ongoing conversations on how we can potentially do that long term. I mean, there are mechanisms when it comes to pedestrians for those. Now, when it comes to street traffic and for instance, folks that are living in the area or trying to drive through the area during those times, that's a little bit different. It's a different issue and kind of a different fix or potential fix would be needed. But yeah, there's ongoing conversation right now with the city through. I know Scott Lyons, our police chief, just met with the school district about trying to move that forward, and so we're looking at that for sure. Mm-hmm. You mean for like walking, like the cross? Yeah. Sure.
Councilman Pryor. 'Cause I've already addressed that. Right.
Yeah, and there's probably some real needs around the schools and some high traffic streets for some crosswalk, additional style of pedestrian crossway to make it a little more safe. Right, right. So, Well, I mean, we're looking at putting in I say looking, we're actually planning to put in a flashing crosswalk at Main Street and Y Highway. And I assume if we have some success with that, as, you know, it wouldn't be a huge ask for us to do a couple of those and around a couple other schools. I mean, it's a $15,000-$20,000 fix for what could be a huge safety fix if we can get it to work right. I don't think that's an unreasonable ask for the city to help with something like that if it works well. If the one at Y and Main doesn't work very well, then I guess we should try something else. Spike strips, yeah.
I would love one-way on our block at Main Street, because the amount of people that turn from Hackberry and go that direction on Main, we see cars almost get hit on the daily. And there's no stop sign because you're going the wrong way. And they blow right through that, and cars on Y almost hit them.
Oh, yeah.
I had somebody go the wrong way when I was.
Going the wrong way. Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it a bunch of, I see cars every single morning going the wrong way.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
they turn right there, and then they speed down Main Street and almost get hit at Y because there's no stop sign, because they're going the wrong way.
right.
Not on our block.
I mean, it probably wouldn't be a huge ask to put a little more signage up to make sure people understand that, especially on Hackberry, that not to turn right there. Yeah.
I know that we, in the past, we've talked about wayfinding signs.
Uh-huh.
Is that something that's in the budget for? Oh, say that again? Did you just talk about that?
It's lined up in the meetings for the ward meetings on Friday, like the one I had with you guys on Friday.
Oh,
So yeah, but yeah, we are still there. It is still been budgeted and planned, and we are still moving forward with the wayfinding sign project. We've had an issue with yeah, we can talk. I mean, but for the public, yeah, that it's still coming. It is budgeted, and we are still planning to do that, and it's just a matter of getting the right vendor and getting it done. So, any other questions or concerns? I would like to point out that I just, for the public and anybody who's interested, you know, the city has taken a real, made it a real priority and this is not an effort from me, it started with the council. The council a couple years ago said, hey, we need to be more transparent. We need to have a lot more engagement with the community. And I know that the turnout here is pretty low and obviously we're not hitting the engagement style that people would want, or maybe it's just the subject matter. I guess people just aren't interested in the city budget. I do think that you know, we've taken a lot of steps to increase our transparency, to increase our opportunities for public engagement, and I just hope everybody notices that. You know, we've when it comes to like a rezoning or when it comes to new development, we're doing community meetings that are not, you know, not required by law. They're not required by, you know, they're not required at all. But we're engaging the public to try and get, you know, an understanding of what their needs and concerns are, so that way we can try to address them and balance the needs of development with the needs of residents. And so I'm just proud of the staff, because I think we've come up with a lot of different ways to engage folks, and we've become pretty, you know, it's not hard to find information if you want it. Let's put it that way. And so, but if someone has ideas for further ways to reach the public and other ways to disperse information or entice feedback, we're always all ears. Because we do have the new app, the My Belton app. So if you have, you know, whether you have a Droid or you have an Apple, if you want to download the new My Belton app and sign up for it, it doesn't cost you anything, and no, we're not going to spam you. But that's an opportunity for you to make service requests. You can, you know, if you find something that's wrong, you know, a pothole, or you find a yard that needs mowed, or some place that needs cleaned up, or you have an issue, I mean, you can go as far as to sending us a pin, like a map pin or a GPS pin that we could, you know, okay, here's where you need to go to find this issue. Take a picture of the issue. You can upload that, and not only do we get that and monitor that consistently, but it has an automatic feedback component to it. So that way, if you have a concern, you know, it will, someone will be addressing that concern and communicating with you directly where that concern is, as far as where it's being addressed, how it's being addressed, when you can expect it to be handled by. And so it's kind of revolutionized I think it could revolutionize the way we interact with the public if the public decides to utilize it. We have a question, Charlie?
Yeah, one question. This says, with all the major road improvements going on and planned for next year, are there any plans on focusing more on local street improvements? Cambridge, 162nd, K Avenue traffic light, etc.
Well, I don't know those specifics off the top of my head. Yes, I know that we have some local streets projects that are going to be getting done as well as part of the bond. Now that we've got the bond issuance tapped up finally, with all the audits coming in and everything, some of that money that was approved for us to do that kind of work is becoming available, and we will be doing more of those projects. And on the Public Works page of our website, you can find what projects are on tap and when you can expect those to be done. And if that's not updated now, we will get it updated shortly. But yeah, we get the big projects like the 58 and the Mullen expansion, and then we've got some exciting big projects coming, like the Marquee extension from 163rd to North Scott. Preliminarily might have some funding for redoing Marquee on the other side of North Scott and squaring that up for the next couple of years. And then Larkspur, we're going to get Larkspur pushed through to Powell behind Five Guys, so that way we'll create another direct route from, getting from the interstate to the backside, to the kind of the north side to Marquee, without having to go through the middle of the city. And yeah, we have some other projects lined up for sure. Starlight to Mullen. Yeah, we also have the Starlight connector that's going to connect Starlight to Mullen. So some pretty good projects in the hopper. And of course, I-49 will be expanded to to 3 lanes on each side here in a few years when MoDOT can get to it. Well, it's been the money's there. It's just a matter of getting programmed. So, any other questions? Okay, well, as always, if you have questions or concerns, we are in the budget process. I mean, we'd love to hear the feedback. If you think of something that, talking to the public or anybody that's here, anybody watching online, anybody who might see this afterwards online, if you have any concerns or questions about where the money's going, where we should put it, what we should prioritize, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear it. And call City Hall, email us, jwarren@belton.org. That's directly. Call your ward representatives, your council people. The mayor's very responsive, so you can always call and email him. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. I appreciate everybody who has asked questions, and hopefully we'll have a nice representative budget that we can push forward for approval here in the next few months. Thank you.